Life progressed on earth as usual, each generation growing up and reproducing after its kind. Those folks lived a long time. Adam lived a total of 930 years. His son Seth lived 912 years. Did you notice that Cain was not counted as Adam's son? Cain cut himself off that lineage by his ways. Instead of following God's way for him, Cain mapped out a different path for his life and went his own way. That is what happens when we do not line up with God's will and way for us. We chart a different path, go our way, and are lost in the history of God's account. Enoch, Adam's grandson, lived for 905 years. Kenan lived for 910 years. Mahalalel for 895 years. Jared 962. And then something strange happens to this history of long life. Enoch lived only for 365 years. Not even up to half the lifespan of his youngest ancestor, and he was gone. Let's sit on this for a while. Enoch was different from the rest. The testimony of his life is that he walked continuously with God. What do you and I expect today from the life of a man who is recognized as having walked closely with God? Prosperity! God will prosper him above his mates and ancestors. God will give him the best of everything here. Amazing family, sound health, incredible wealth, and all the good things of life we can ever imagine. Somebody say amen to that. I don't think it's wrong to say that we all expected that Enoch's life will be different because of the way he chose to walk with God. What we don't know is how that difference will play out. Well, it obviously didn't go the way we would naturally expect. He didn't get all the good we assumed would come his way as a result of his choice to walk closely with God. Instead, all we hear is that Enoch had sons and daughters like the rest of his ancestors, and then boom, he was gone. Gone with the wind. He died way too young. Some of us will be wailing. Wasn't he entitled to a better life than his ancestors who didn't care about God? Couldn't he have at least lived close to their lifespan as possible? How could God cut his life so short? Why would God take him away so quickly? The answer is brutally short and clear. For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts. Isaiah 55, 8-9. God doesn't see things the way we see them. Neither does he think the way we think. Our definition of prosperity is when someone has way too much of the stuff we consider the good things of life. Whereas by God's definition, prosperity could be that someone has only the very things they need, so they do not have to worry about the extras that they don't need. While we consider those who have all kinds of stuff we wish we could have as prosperous, God considers those who have just enough for the day as blessed. Let's bring it to today, like right now. How do you feel every time you hear that someone you know or someone you love has gone to be with the Lord? We wince and weep and wonder why the righteous are taking along with the unrighteous. We are disappointed that our expectation of a normal life and our dreams of a long life is being cut short too soon. Because we have seen the ugly arms of death stretch so far and come too close to home, many of us are living in constant fear. I don't want to die. How strange is it that we all want to go to heaven, but we don't want to die? We are afraid of this death that Jesus defeated on the cross, not so we can now conveniently avoid it, but so we can face it with courage, knowing that death is no longer the end of our life. It's just a new beginning. Jesus took the sting of death, so we no longer live in fear of it. Yet today, many of us are not living because we are afraid we will die if we allow ourselves to really live. The fear of death is robbing us the joy of living. This is not God's will for us. Get your journal. Let's do some soul searching. What is your biggest fear? How do you feel about the death of a loved one? What comes to mind when you think of your own death? If we still live in fear of death, then we do not understand what Jesus accomplished for us on the cross of Calvary. We haven't grasped that this life is only a temporary phase that is passing quickly, which is why Moses prayed, "Teach us to number our days, that we may gain a heart of wisdom." He understood the temporality of life. A lot of us amass all our treasures here and thus are afraid to have to leave them behind. God knows that wherever our treasures are saved, that is where our heart will be, which is why He encouraged us to pursue and invest in the kingdom where no one and nothing can steal the treasures we stockpile there. But no, we don't listen. We save up so much here, and when death shakes its fist, we are gripped with fear, like those who have no hope at all. Enoch walked closely with God. He piled up his treasures in the right place, and when his time came, he was gone in a twinkle of an eye. No looking back, no regrets. Those he left behind may not understand, but that man was happy to have that distance between him and God closed up for good, so he could now see the one he loved so much face to face. He was happy to be rid of the limitation of flesh, so he could become one with God, at home at last with God. That is what our attitude should be in life and toward death. Fervently serving the Lord, amassing our savings above, and always ready for whenever we are called home. Who cries when they are told it's time to go home? Especially when that home is so much more than we can ever imagine or ask or dream about. Stop living like it all starts and ends here. This world is not our home. We're just here for a while, and even though we don't know how long that while will be, we ought to learn to number our days so we can live it out wisely, living each day as if it were our last, because it may very well be. If you are afraid of dying, then there is something that needs to be set right in your heart and life. Take time to reflect. Why am I afraid of death? If death means going to be with the one you love the most, would you still be afraid to go? If it means not having to deal with all the pains and troubles of this life and entering into everlasting peace and joy, would you still be afraid to die? Do you really believe all that the Bible talks about death and life after now? And if you don't, why? What needs to change? John put it this way, "And we have known and believed the love that God has for us. God is love, and he who abides in love abides in God, and God in him. Love has been perfected among us in this, that we may have boldness in the day of judgment, because as he is, so are we in this world." There is no fear in love, but perfect love casts out fear, because fear involves torment. But he who fears has not been made perfect in love. We love him because he loved us first. 1 John 4:16-19. Timothy also said that God has not given us the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of sound mind. If we are still living in fear of death or of anything else, it means we do not yet understand the love of God and the redemptive power of his love toward us. Something needs to shift. The way we see and live life, the things we treasure, our definitions of life and death, and of blessings and prosperity, if you don't mind me adding that. I know it is very hard to make sense of this when we are reeling with the death of loved ones. I could not understand why God took my loved ones, and I was heartbroken. But as I turned my heart over to God, and as I allowed his word to permeate my broken heart, it began to make sense as I watched the world unravel. To know that they don't have to deal with all they were up against and all that has been showing up in the last couple of years gives me peace. Yes, I would love to have them here. We'll always pull through together, but God knows best. His timing is always the best. And so I have learned to surrender my thoughts and reasoning, my wishes and hopes to him. I have equally faced that a number of times until I am now at this place of, if it comes today, well and good. If tomorrow, that means I got another day to do a little more. So let's go. Let's go. It's good to have great faith that believes we will live for so long, but don't forget, tomorrow is not guaranteed. Every moment is a gift, and God owes us nothing. The fact that we walk closely with God doesn't mean we are entitled to live forever on planet Earth. Death is inevitable for every one of us. Shying away from it is not smart. Being prepared is the best way to go. Be prepared so that whenever it comes, we are happy to go be with the one we have loved and lived for all these years. What can be better than to meet Jesus face to face and know fully as we are known? Now, don't misquote me. I am not saying go live careless. Don't go tempting God. Don't go looking for death if he has not come for you. That is foolishness. Wisdom is being so prepared, like Paul, who said, "For me to live is Christ, and to die is gain." It is being content in whatever state is allotted us at any given time. If you are not walking closely with God, this is the time to make a change, to seek God until you find him and make him your best friend. How can you correct that right now? You can say a prayer and invite God to come in and take his rightful place as Lord and Master of your life. Ask him to be your best friend and show you how to walk closely with him from this day onward. If you're already walking closely with him, then peace be still and know that God knows what he's doing. The world today may seem out of control, but God still got everyone and everything under control. He knows what is best for us and our loved ones. Our timing is in his hands, and he will do good for us. Enoch walked with God, and God did not allow him to see all the travails his ancestors had to live through. God gave him life in terms of quality instead of quantity. It's not about how long we live, it is about how well. I'd rather live well with God than long and miserable, wondering when God will take me. With all that is going on, It is time for those of us who name the name of the Lord to set ourselves apart, to seek God like never before, to work closely with Him than we have ever done before, to find His definitions and meanings for life and death and events we are experiencing, so that we are not swept away by what carries others off. May we see life and death the way God sees them, and may we align our lives the way God wants it. Check out the links and the scriptures below for additional help. Feel free to share your response in the comments. Be inspired. You are a star, and it's your time to shine. Don't forget to subscribe and share this with family and friends. Jump in and join me in the next video, still on this series of New Beginning, as we learn how to find grace in the eyes of God for such a time as this.